I will go ahead and get us started. Thank you everyone for joining us. There is automated closed captioning available for this workshop. I'm putting directions in the chat. Welcome to the Texas Children in Nature Network Teacher Workshop, Nature-Based SEL in the Classroom. My name is Sarah Coles, and I am the Executive Director of the Texas Children in Nature Network. We are recording our session today. Thank you for joining us. To save bandwidth for all of our attendees and for a clean recording, we ask everyone to turn off their computers and mute themselves during the presentation. I will be monitoring the chat, so you can share your questions there, and I will share them with the presenters. Adam Flores is running tech for us today, so thank you, Adam. As I said, we are recording the session. Alice will share the recording in a follow-up email. If you are uncomfortable with your name showing, you can change your name to anonymous and then private message Adam with your name for attendance. Also, and this is very important, if your Zoom name does not fully match the name you are registered with, you either need to let Adam know your name or change your name. And this is your full name. It cannot say iPhone or your a child's name or something. It needs to say your name. It needs to match. You will not be able to get a certificate for attendance if it does not match. If you are needing a certificate, just a reminder, you have to email the email address that was provided in the Zoom link email this morning. Just to go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin. And as such, I'm on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Comanche, and Sana people. Our ongoing colonial presence on indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. I'm going to go ahead and put a few links in the chat about land acknowledgements. And then I'd like to go ahead and welcome our speaker. Our speaker today is Jennifer Russell Baker with the Compass Rose School. She has been doing some SEL work through her work and is a wonderful speaker today. Thank you, Jennifer, and take it away.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to speak about this topic. So nature-based SEL in the classroom is what we will be discussing. A little background about myself and why I want to speak on this topic is that I am a certified school counselor. I have been working as a certified school counselor officially for the last 2 years, but I've been in education for 13 years, and everybody who's a teacher knows that we're all in some aspect unofficial counselors for our students, right? Before I was a counselor, I was a science teacher. So I have a degree in biology. And so that naturally sends me out into nature and have appreciation for nature. So as we go through today, I do at the end, I love to share my resources as an educator. We always like resources. So Sarah said she's going to share this PowerPoint with you. I have a resource page for the things that we're going to do today. And so I like to just jump right in there. Okay. So at the end of this webinar, I have a hope that everyone will understand the benefits of nature-based SEL practices, be able to implement them in their classroom, so simple nature-based things in their classroom, and will have an understanding of why they're important. Okay. So social emotional learning, SEL, is a big buzzword right now in education, right? Everybody's like, we need to incorporate SEL. We need to make sure our kids have that social and emotional support. So social emotional SEL is something that also can be incorporated just in our regular learning and also can be incorporated in nature. So nature lends itself really easily to incorporating these skills. So it's integrating outdoor environmental experiences, developing a deeper understanding and appreciation for nature, promotes social emotional learning, combination of the outdoor activities, the environmental education, and those social emotional practices leads students to be able to learn skills like self-regulation, empathy, compassion. These practices include mindfulness, team building, reflection exercises. I said, I was a little nervous today because I haven't been using Zoom for a while. I've been using Google Meets because that's what we use in Compass Rose. And so bear with me if I'm like doing some technical weird stuff. So it's technology, right? So some of the benefits, I always like from a science background, I'm always about research. What does the research say? Is this something that is has been researched, has been used in classrooms, and has shown benefits? So as to those benefits, it's shown improved focus and attention, reduce stress and anxiety, increase creativity, cognitive flexibility. So we're talking problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, those skills that help our students be successful in life. Right? If you go, I spent some time as a high school counselor, and we did partnerships with the people who were hiring, and we asked like, what do you want in kids? And when you're going to hire some of our kids, and they were like, we can teach them those hard skills. What we really need is kids to come to us with those social skills, with those problem solving skills, being able to critically think and to self-regulate. So in addition, it enhances learning and memory, which is always important when we're trying to get our kids to do our thing that education loves the most, right? All of us love doing standardized tests. It's improved social emotional skills, which is where I come in, like the counselor, what we want for the kids, as well as the teachers, empathy, communication, teamwork, good relationships with their peers, good relationships with their teachers, and just the ability to interact in society and be contributors to society in a, first of all, in a productive way, but also in a way that acknowledges and respects other people as well as the environment. Okay. So a lot of the focus, and please tell me if I'm speaking too fast in the chat. Sarah's monitoring the chat so she can let me know. In education, it's great and it's wonderful if we have the ability to get outside. But as I know from being in the classroom, lots of times we don't have that ability. There's always some kind of factors. Maybe we're in the middle of a city and we don't have any open space to take our students in other than the playground. Although the playground is great, it is filled with playground equipment, right? I'm very blessed to work at a school that is nature-based. I work at Compass Rose Journey, and we're a nature-based school with a public health focus. So we have a garden for the students to utilize. We have a large open field that we can go out on. When we want to take the kids out, we have a patio area, but I know that everybody does not have that capability. So how do we get our kids that experience in nature, that exposure to nature, even when we don't have those things? So primarily what I'm going to be focusing on is bringing that into the classroom environment. So once again, going back to the research shows that even nature in an artificial setting like a classroom, or artificial nature itself, can have similar benefits to going outdoors into parks, into gardens, right? I mean, of course, it's not going to be at the same level, but it is a significant level. And in science, it's always significant is always the word we're looking for, right? So some of the things that have benefits are natural lighting. So that's just simply opening the windows. I know you can probably see my whiteboard in the background and you'll see the like lines on it. That's from my blinds being open. If you can't, and I know we also live in a world where for security reasons, we might not be able to open our windows. So what else can we do? We're going to talk through some of those things. Indoor gardening. I'm going to be sharing with you today some pictures. One of our wonderful, wonderful pre-K teachers, she gave me permission to share her plants. She has started an indoor garden with her students. So I'll be sharing that with you as well. Bringing nature sounds and videos into play, and then nature-inspired artwork and nature used in artwork. So once again, as educators, I understand we don't have a lot of money. So you can have pictures up or posters up that have plants in them, that have the ocean in them, that have animals in them. But you can also have the students make these things and put into those things some natural elements. And we'll kind of talk through that as well. So since I am the counselor and I'm about like bringing that nature in the classroom, one of the big things for me is that nature is a soothing effect on us, right? So when we are in nature, it calms our anxiety. It helps relieve our stress. Um, it works on our parasympathetic nervous system, which is this part that is for relaxation and digestion, which is easier to do when you're relaxed and you have less health problems, right? And so one of the things that I'm going to suggest doing with your kids, if you can't take them outside, is a guided meditation, guided nature meditation. So I know our cameras are off, so I can't see you, but I'm going to ask you to sit in a comfortable position, and I'm going to guide you through a scripted meditation. So within those resources, I think I did include scripted meditations. So I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Like I said, I'm in education, so we like to look for things that are already there. So I'm going to guide you through it, and I hope that you do the practice of it, because I have a wonderful supervisor as a LPC. I'm an LPC associate, so I'm working towards hours. So I get to have somebody who mentors me basically. And my supervisor always tells me, you don't do anything with the client that you wouldn't do yourself. And so also I believe in that as a teacher. I don't have my students do anything that I wouldn't do. So I'm going to lead us through a guided meditation. I'm going to ask you to be comfortable, sit comfortably. I'm going to ask that you, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. If not, just kind of lower your gaze some, because that gives us a sense of relaxing. And then I'm going to begin the meditation. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to take a good deep breath, breathing in through your nose, holding it for about 4 seconds, and then a long breath out like you're blowing out a candle through your mouth. I'm going to ask that you take one more deep breath in through your nose, hold it, and then out through your mouth like you're blowing out a candle. Close your eyes if your eyes are not closed already. And just like we just practiced, take 3 long, deep breaths as you feel yourself sink deeply into the ground and your body becomes relaxed. So whether you're sitting in a chair or you're sitting on the ground, some point of your body, whether it's your feet or your bottom, is connected to the ground. So feel your body start to sink deeply into the ground. Now imagine that you're standing on a path at the edge of a small forest. The bright sun warms your back as you face the opening in the trees. The cool breeze from the forest is inviting you to enter. The path is clear and broad. It is easy to follow, and so you step into the forest. All around you, you can hear birds calling to one another. Their sounds are gentle and sweet. It is as if they are encouraging you to take a few more steps into the home. And so you do. The peace in the forest is total. You are aware of small animals around you. You see rabbits and squirrels romping and playing. You can hear the sounds of more birds hidden in the dense canopy of the forest. As you continue to walk forward, there before you is a beautiful, massive, strong tree. It has a strong root system coming out of the earth, anchoring it in place. You decide to climb into the roots, and it's as if the roots create a special natural bench for you to sit. You notice that the roots connect to a small creek of cool running water near where you are sitting. So you dangle your feet into the water below, sending a cool, pleasant tingle up from your feet to your ankles, then up to your legs, to your tummy. Now you feel the coolness touching your fingers, and then up your arms, into your chest, neck. Then your forehead feels cool and calm. Breathe in this cool, refreshing feeling. Your entire body feels refreshed, and relaxed as you dangle your feet in the river, sitting on the strong roots of the tree. Your mind begins to focus on strength of the tree, its power and stability. You think about how it is deeply rooted into the ground and how it is connected to the earth. Your thoughts drift to how the tree gives its shade, its oxygen to the air we breathe, how it provides a home to birds and other animals, and how it gives you a sense of being strong, stable, and protected. You take one last deep breath in the forest and know it is time to leave. You begin to start walking down the forest path, feeling the sun warm your body again. You turn around to bid your tree goodbye. You know that you can return to the strong stability of the tree and its refreshing waters below whenever you need to. Take a deep breath in and return to the room when you are ready. Okay, so a guided meditation like this can be done with your students in the classroom. It's all about imagining. If you want to help your students, we talked about a forest, we talked about birds, you can put on some nature sounds. If you have a fountain, you can have the fountain running because we talked about water, and that brings a calming. And then the calm sound of your voice as you're reading triggers their mirror neurons. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of mirror neurons, right? But mirror neurons are these things in our brains. They're neurons, which are part of our brain, and they actually mimic social behaviors. It's how children learn what the expectation is for them. So when children get dysregulated and you are calm, that causes their mirror neurons to kick in and they will mirror your behavior, okay? And so that's one of the reasons why doing guided meditations in a calm setting can help when your kids are getting maybe they're getting a little rowdy, maybe they are struggling to focus. It can bring them back to that. In addition, we talk a lot about how our brains, when we're talking about how our brains work, we talk a lot about our amygdalas in response to that fight or flight, right? That idea of survival. So when we get stressed out, when we get upset, our amygdala kicks in and we freeze, flee, or we fight in order to protect ourselves. But that survival part of our brain is also wired for connection, right? And once again, we talk about connection, we think of it in terms of people, but really it's a connection in terms of our environment as well. Our environment allows us to survive, right? And historically, people have lived outside. They've had more of a contact with nature than we do now, but that's still hardwired in our genes, in our brains. And so when we feel that connection, like we talked about being in the roots of this tree or dangling our feet in that water, it gives us a sense of connectedness. Also, environments were typically places that kept us safe. So that speaks to a part of our mind, just like that whole fight or flight. People have no problem believing, oh yeah, fight, flight, or flee is a real thing, but people sometimes struggle to realize that connection to our environment and nature is a real thing as well. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so how I remember when I'm trying to incorporate nature, how I remember to do it, and how it gives me an easy way to remember what to use is I think of Captain Planet because I'm a 90s kid and a little bit of a nerd. And I did watch Captain Planet growing up, and it was Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and Heart, and then they put up their little rings and summon Captain Planet, the superhero, to come and fight against pollution and all the bad stuff in the environment. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We're bringing all these elements of the environment, including heart, into our classrooms. So I have some things I'm going to hold up to the camera to share, to show like a little example. So you'll see there's pictures here of Earth. So we're talking Earth, literally, that you can hold in your hand. So that's something like sand. So kinetic sand is great. This is some kinetic sand I have in my classroom. It's a natural colored kinetic sand. It kind of mimics beach sand. The kids love it. They automatically will go to that kinetic sand, and this, because this is a soothing place. And even the little ones, I always think it's super hilarious because I have pre-K kids and kinder kids, and they tell me it's so satisfying to stick their fingers into the kinetic sand. So what does that look like in your classroom? Kinetic sand can get a little pricey, but you don't need much. You don't need much to have that tactile experience of it. So even getting like going to the Dollar Tree and getting those little Tupperware like containers or little tiny containers and putting just a little of the kinetic sand in that you can pass out to the kids at their desk. Regular sand, I do like sometimes like caution if we're getting regular sand, just remembering that I don't mind critters, but some people mind critters, like bugs and things. But then also there is the possibility of microorganisms that may not be very nice to your human skin and body. Typically that is not really an issue because they don't affect us overly much. Things like rocks. So this one actually kind of has a fossil in there. One of my students found it. My students like to find things and give to me, which is awesome. Has like some a fossil in it, but it's just a rock. It's nice and textured, gives that sensation. In addition, like anything that you pick up outside, basically leaves, things like that. When we talk about fire, so some of you are probably like, okay, what does this crazy lady mean about fire? Because I'm in a classroom and that's the last thing that I want around my kids. And that's like the last thing that my operations team, who's trying to keep us safe and does the nice fire drills for us, wants us to have. We're talking light here mostly. So that's opening up the windows, letting the natural light in if you can. If you can't let the natural light in, they're actually natural light bulbs, which mimic daylight. Why is that important? We're talking circadian rhythm, right? Circadian rhythm is that thing about how we know when it's time to wake up versus time to sleep. Not our alarm clocks, but the natural part in our body that says when it's light outside, because we are not nocturnal creatures, we're awake, and when it's dark outside, we're asleep. And so one of the things, this one is a fountain that my lovely mother brought me because I said, oh, I really love that fountain, but I'm poor because I'm an educator. I don't make a lot of money. And if you notice, this fountain has smoke coming out of it. So that mimics, it also has lights in it. So that mimics that idea of fire, right? So the kids are drawn to it. Literally kids walk in the room and they immediately go, they're like, oh, that's cool. And they're like, is it hot? That's their first question. And it's not hot. And so I tell them, no, you can go put your fingers in it. You can touch it. It's pretty cool. And if I don't have it on, they'll come up to me and they'll say to me, hey, can you turn on the fountain? So that was off of Amazon, ordered off of Amazon. And it's a nice way to bring that element into play. Right. And then we can also see, like, if you have lamps, like you can put that natural lighting light bulbs in there. You can open the windows. I mean, you may need to ask first. I'm not the windows. I'm sorry. Most windows in schools don't open, but the blinds. Sorry, I like automatically looked towards my blinds when I said that. But opening the blinds, the light bulbs run about $13 at Home Depot for like a 2 or 3 pack, or off of Amazon. We talk about wind. How do we incorporate that? So wind is, to me, it's just air, breathing. As we breathe, we are creating wind, right? It's the air we're breathing. So I use like pinwheels, Dollar Tree. Sometimes I get stuff like if I go to anything and I see something, let me get like 5 of those, put it in my bag, teacher things, right? So teaching the kids, like when we do that breath out, that pursed lip breath that it takes to move a pinwheel, we are also activating our parasympathetic nervous system. And we're blowing out that release of that carbon dioxide. And it's letting our body know, okay, we're breathing deep, we can relax. Bubbles. I always keep some bubbles in the classroom or in the, even to give to the kids, to have that idea that, once again, doing bubbles gives you that pursed lip, long out breath. That out breath is the one that calms us. I don't know, I can't blow a bubble today, but just little bubbles. In addition, the water, you saw the fountain. If you're comfortable in your room, if you have access to water play, getting basins, bowls, anything where they can put things into the water. The Orbeez, if you're okay with those, they have that like water and like squishy feel, things like that. And then heart. When I talk heart, I always think animals. So as people, I know kids who do not hesitate to hit other kids, hit their friends. But when you ask them, would you hit an animal or would you hit your puppy? Oh, no, I would never do that. And they're so forgiving of animals because we have that natural, they're cuddly, they're cute thing where they're like, oh, my cat scratched me, but he was just scared. They always look for the good in that animal. And I use a lot of stuffed animals, things like that to kind of do that because my school is kind of like, on the animals because we have kids with allergies and things. So you, of course, have to get permission. But class pets, if you have access to a class pet, there are, I shared it on the resource page and I'll talk about it a little bit more. There's grants to get a class pet and to utilize those types of things. And then just regular plants that you grow. So that's where that indoor garden comes in. Kids having the ability and the opportunity to show nurturing helps them learn to nurture themselves and to give nurturing to other people. So it's a lot easier with the plants, a lot easier with an animal, and then we can translate that onto another person. Okay. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, like opening those blinds, incorporating those natural elements into your classroom. Brain breaks, they're a big thing. We know kids only have a limited amount of ability to focus in on something before they need a little bit of a change. So what are we using for those brain breaks? One of the things we tend to do is we kind of put on a video or something like that. And then that just stimulates the children more. It doesn't really get the focus that we're wanting. So if we're being very deliberate in our brain breaks, we are showing a nature video or a quick meditation where using nature. Cosmic Kids Yoga, which I also put in the resources, is great for that. They have little videos that are like 3 minutes long. Like they have the longer ones, but they call it the Zen Den, and a lot of those incorporate nature. There's even one with her simulating a mindful nature walk, which I believe I also put into the resources. Incorporating it into, okay, so you know what? How am I going to get my principal to buy in that I need to incorporate this nature? I'm incorporating into everything. I'm incorporating into writing. I'm incorporating it into math. I'm incorporating it into science. I'm incorporating into social studies, although I struggle a little bit to figure out that one, but I'm sure there's a way because there's a lot of creative people, I'm sure, on this call, on this webinar. So background nature sounds, why my kids are doing silent reading, why my kids are doing independent work, having those on in the background. Breathing exercises, how are we starting off our day? How are we setting that tone for the day? Getting that wind, that air, the acknowledgement and the appreciation for the oxygen we breathe into that. And then we have natural toys and manipulatives. So like instead of using like plastic bears, maybe we use shells. Maybe we use little pebbles, something that has a natural tone. If we have toys in our classroom, I have this little wooden cars and trucks and things. So it's been also researched and research-based that playing with toys made of natural things instead of like plastic and things like that are artificially made, they tend to be warmer. They tend to have a different feel to them that children appreciate, that their body appreciates and their mind appreciates, and has a calming effect. So as I mentioned, I have a dollhouse back here. It's a wooden dollhouse. I have a play kitchen back here. It's a wooden play kitchen. I have wooden dolls for the dollhouse. So these things that are natural. Of course, I have plastic things because it's hard to get away from plastic, but I try to have as many natural elements as possible. All right. So if there are any questions, Sarah, is there any questions that I need to answer right now?
We have just a few resources that folks have recommended.
Oh, thank
For the sand, Susan put a few places to get dust-free sand in the chat.
you.
If any of you are looking for that. And then when you were talking about some incorporating brain breaks, Rebecca suggested also just taking your class on a quick 5-minute walk outside and then coming back in.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad that y'all are putting that. I'm so glad that people are putting that in the chat. I actually do have a Jamboard for us at the end where we can drop those ideas and that information so everybody can have access to that even when we're gone from here. And then it's going to be open forever. So if people want to add it, if you want to look at it to get ideas, so we can use those. I love the collaboration. The thing about the walking too, we're going to talk about that as well, because that is super, super powerful. As a classroom teacher, I often took, especially my kids, I did middle and high school, and I would take them on a mindful walk, the class I had after lunch, because I noticed they come in after lunch and they're all like, you know how teenagers and preteens are, and they're like flopping in their chair, wilting. And I'm like, this is not going to work. We're not going to learn anything. And so that is something that I really, really, truly advocate for. Okay. So some activities we can use in the classroom: indoor gardening, nature-based mindfulness and journaling, sand and water play. We've talked a lot about that already. Collaborative nature-inspired art projects, nature-based storytelling, nature-based science experiments, sensory activities, service learning, right? So all of these things we already know about as teachers. We know about journaling and art projects and storytelling and all these things. But we have to be very deliberate in our bringing of nature into these things. So for the indoor gardening, I'm going to go here. I'm sorry, I'm out of order. So we're going to do the journal. We're going to practice the journaling, and then I'll start showing some pictures of the indoor gardening and talking through that. So for the journaling, so once again, this is something we can use in the classroom or we can use outside the classroom. Always, if we have the opportunity, outside is better, right? We're going to get more of that effect because we're actually in nature. But if we can't go outside, or outside looks like a bunch of concrete, inside, having our kids use our imagination. Kids are wonderful with their imaginations until we teach them not to be, unfortunately. There are things that our society values sometimes a little bit more, but if you ask a child, to imagine something, they will often immediately start to do that. So when you go outside, which of your senses are you most thankful to have and why? So once again, this is SEL, nature-based. So we are going, we're triggering two things here. We're triggering that connection to the outside and nature, but we're also triggering that connection to gratitude, which has been, once again, research shown having gratitude makes us have a positive outlook, positive set of mindset, and can help us feel more of a connection, right? Kids tend to identify more as happy when they have that sense of gratitude. So we're incorporating those things. Plus, you get the added bonus of writing practice, which all teachers know that our kids need, right? So I'm going to actually ask you to participate in this. We're just going to take just a couple of minutes. We'll say about 3 minutes. I'm not good with putting up the timer, but I'll just tell us when it's time. We're going to take about 3 minutes. And if you have a piece of paper handy, you can write this down, maybe a little tab on your computer. But I want you to actually do this activity. Once again, we don't want to ask kids to do stuff we are not. So maybe taking like 30 seconds to close your eyes, think about when you go outside, which of your senses are you most thankful for and why? And doing that journal. Okay, we're taking about 1 more minute to wrap up our thoughts and complete that journal exercise. Okay, so hopefully everybody kind of participated in this. I know it's kind of weird where in PDs and be like, do this, do that. But once again, we want to experience it so we can know how it will work with our kids and what we need to adjust, right? So maybe with younger kids, maybe it's drawing it instead of writing it if they don't have that ability. With the older kids, maybe it's journaling it and then taking it into something else. So now we're going to talk about our bios and science or whatever. So, giving it something extra or something less if it fits your kids. Okay, so we talked about indoor gardening. Miss Alexis, one of our pre-K teachers, and she said I could show you guys her plants. She has an awesome indoor garden. This is her indoor garden. And her kids, oh, they're so cute. And they named their little plants. And you'll notice that they have cucumbers there. Because, and this is Miss Alexis has this blue bonnet here. And that, once again, gives it that whole nurturing thing, right? We have to take care of it. What happens when you give something a name? Right? It gives it a personality, whether it's a plant, whether it's an animal, whether it's a stuffed animal. And then also they're growing food, right? Food is for our nourishment. So that brings that sense of community, being with our plants, but it also of taking care of us, the plant, we're taking care of the plant, and the plants are going to take care of us, right? By giving us that food. Okay. The other thing is that nurturing with animals. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking that's a snake. It's not warm and cuddly. Are my kids going to want to be around it or what have you? So this is actually one of my classes that I had a few years ago. And as you can see from the mask, this is like right after we came back from COVID, and we're struggling for that connection, right? We've been isolated from each other. And I did this before COVID, but it was so much more powerful after COVID. So for those of you who live in San Antonio, if you are here in San Antonio, but if you're not, that's okay. So the Education Service Center here in San Antonio has the Living Science Center, where you can, if you join like their co-op, you get to borrow animals. So there's so many benefits to this, right? First of all, they have different kinds. I always let the kids choose. So that's how we ended up with a snake, because I'm not a big lover of snakes. And there's a story about how that snake got out, and I had to grab that snake and put it back, and it was not a good steed. But the kids wanted the snake. It was a ball python. The kids wanted the turtle. We had a tree, frog. Like they'll even come if you're in San Antonio. They will deliver them to you, and then you get to keep them for 2 weeks. You can order the food that they need. Like the frog ate crickets, and so did I think that the turtle did too. And the kids loved it. Even I had some kids at that point that were still remote. So we had some in person, some remote. I was able to put it up to the camera and they could see it, and I could connect it to food chains. I could connect it to biomes. What does it take to survive? And then the idea of nurturing. The kids would take care of these animals. They would come at their lunch breaks or whatever and feed them. And I want to do it today. And they would sign up. And we had kids who weren't in I'm all about everybody getting an opportunity. So kids who weren't even in my classes, who I would let come in and interact with the animals, right? There is a grant, Pets in the Classroom is a grant program where if you are a teacher, they will give you these coupons. So you don't have to, like, there's like no qualifier other than being an educator. The first animal, they'll give it to you, but then they'll give you coupons later on for maintaining that animal. So they give you, I think, a coupon where you could get a certain amount off of the actual animal at like PetSmart or one of those places. And then they give you a free habitat, and they'll give you like some free food to get you started. If your school allows you to have them, I say go for it. Even if it's like a fish, hamster, get something that of course you can take care of. You have to think about what you're going to do with that animal over the summer. So this is one of the reasons why I love the living science, because they came, you got the pet and then they came and they took it away and then you can get a different one. So I'm not sure if all of the education service centers have that option, but I would definitely check and see. But in San Antonio, we're lucky enough to have that option. And as you can see, even the kids, like some of the kids were like, I don't know. And then they touch the snake and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like I thought it would feel. I thought it'd be rough, but it's a soft, I think of it like a baby, almost like as adults, right? If you think of a baby in the abstract, I mean, it's loud, it's pooping, you got to clean up after it. It doesn't really do much, just lays there. Why do we take care of them, right? And like on a biological level, why do we take care of these little squirmy little things, right? They're babies. Because one of you, like a parent, they're yours, they're part of yours, you're part of your DNA is in there, but also they're cute, right? And that is a survival mechanism, being cute. And so it's the same thing with animals. Kids think animals are cute. Bunnies, rabbits, it teaches them how to nurture, and it teaches them how to care and have empathy and compassion. There's also programs like that will come and they'll bring like dogs into your classroom, like petting zoos that will come and bring those things if you can't like just have a pet in your room. Okay. So we're talking, a lot of the focus has been on what can we do in our room. So what about if we can get outside? Getting outside is awesome, wonderful. I love it. I love camping. I love digging in the dirt. In college, I know I was like, one of my favorite things was ecology class where we got to go wade into like the unmanaged part of the San Antonio River and look for little micro invertebrates and things. Kids love that. I take kids, I used to work for a after school and summer program. And my job was to do what I love, to go outside with kids. We'd go out, we'd catch animals. We do sketches of like, so we talked about incorporating that into art. We do etchings of the leaves, we would find interesting rocks and we would paint those rocks. We learned about like dinosaurs and their environments, and we use clay to model and make volcanoes. And then we would take like natural like sticks and things. So when the volcano erupted, it would like roll down and like, but we had these natural elements. We found bugs, and I generally don't like to take things out of their natural environment, but like kids like that, and it's something to see. And so we got these little bug catchers, and lots of parents called me angry because kids had like little beetles and things, and they're like, look, mom, while mom's driving home in the car. But kids are naturally drawn to the outdoors, and we nurture that. Also, it allows us, in addition to all the benefits to that child, there's a benefit to the world, right? We're going through this thing now, like, wait, we might be running out of space. We might be running out of resources. The world's getting polluted. That connection allows them to want to conserve it, right? And so that they have a wonderful world when they grow up and when their children grow up. So let's talk about a mindful nature walk. All right. So there's several things. So like when you take a quick 5-minute walk, you want it to be purposeful. I want everything to be kind of purposeful so that the kids get the maximum benefit. Sorry, I dropped my paper. Benefit from it. So in a few minutes, there's going to be a slide that pops up, and it's going to talk about a mindful minute. And this is one you can do when you go outside. Another one is just like how I did the guided meditation from our seat. You can do that with your kids outside. Of course, we don't tell them to close their eyes. But as you're walking and you're taking this mindful walk, and you start to tell them, take those deep breaths. And as you take that deep breath of air, think of how you're grateful for that oxygen and the ability to breathe, right? As we breathe out the air, let's thank the trees for giving us that, right? As we're walking, notice the sun. How does it make your skin feel? My skin is feeling a little tingly from where the sun is hitting on my skin, right? Now, something that we don't often notice. I want you to just take a moment to notice your shirt. What does it feel like on your back? What does it feel like? Is it soft? Is it a little bit scratchy? Like, if you're just going through, leading them through being in that moment. And then as when I go through the mindful minutes, in a few minutes, we're going to focus on nature and specifically bringing that element into. Something else you can do is a nature scavenger hunt. The Google is your best friend. Go in there. It's Google Nature Scavenger Hunt. Thousands, not thousands, that's an exaggeration. Sorry. Hundreds, probably you could find pop up because different people modify and do different things. You can, it's a quick search. Planting activities. So in the classroom, what that can look like is, I'm sure if you've done any science with little kids, it's getting the little plastic bag. All you do is take a paper towel with water, put it in there, put the bean in there, take to your window, and that will grow. And the kids will get, wow, it's really growing into a plant, right? And then eventually, if you get to that point, getting little things to plant them, and maybe they can take them home, or you can leave them and start your garden, right? Plot study observations. So this is an outside activity, definitely. So if you have an outside place where you might think that you have some like insects and things that might be on the ground, so field, if you have a garden, typically there's a tree around, there's going to be some kind of little bugs there. It's a really easy thing to do. You can take a hula hoop or a small hoop, or you can even take some tape and block out a little square. And you say to the kids, this is your plot, right? You are a scientist and I want you to study it. And what I want you to notice is everything that is in this plot. We're going to focus a lot. You see living things like bugs or plants, and we're going to draw it. We're going to draw our plot. And that is their environment. And then you could start making them think about the connectedness of it. So you saw within, as they're drawing it, and you might walk around and you say, hey, I noticed there is a little plant in your environment. And you said under that plant was a little ladybug. Why do you think the ladybug wants to be under that plant? Right? How does the plant benefit the ladybug? How does the ladybug benefit the plant? Oh, there's some ants too. Are the ants moving toward the ladybug, moving away from it? So it gives them a little tiny community that they study and they observe. They get to draw. They can write about. And depending on they can take a picture of, and they can tell their parents about it, right? So that's a plot study observation. Typically, this is used in biology. That's how I bring it down for elementary kids. I've done it like in camps and things. In biology, it's this whole big old thing where they like map it out in the square inches and, and they talk like more. But for the little kids, and even just for a quick outside like activity, we're just simply studying. We're being an observer at nature. Okay. So we talked about a lot of things right now. We're coming to our end of our time. I have a Jamboard that I've set up. So if any of you are not, I'm actually going to stop the share really quickly and I'm going to pull up the Jamboard and talk us through it. And then I'll drop the link in. So I'm going to go here and the Jamboard and reshare. Sure, there was a much easier way to do what I just did, but we are going to do it that way. Okay, so this is a Jamboard, and the Jamboard is, if you'll notice, there's 5 frames, so you can push the little arrow and you can go here and to each one of these. There's only 5. If you just go further past, it just adds an extra one in. So you'll see that's why it says 7. And for each one of these things, I want you to have options of what you're going to put here. You can get a little sticky note and you can write in it, and you put something that either you're going to use when you go back to your classroom that we've learned today, something that you have used to success, any resources that would be useful for this element to implement it in your classroom, any questions you have, whatever you want to put there that is in relation to what we've talked about as far as implementing these nature SELs into the classroom. So you can, like for here, you could say, like, I think I want to implement having a kinetic sandboxes so that the kids can utilize that in a tactile sensory way. We can talk about how it feels gritty, how it feels whatever, and how does that make our body feel, right? And so whatever you want to put, you can get your sticky note and you're going to put it there. I'm going to give us a couple minutes to start that, about 2 minutes to just kind of put some ideas on there. And you can always come back to this once you have the link. It is open. You can always come back, add stuff, take stuff, not physically, but of course, mentally, that you're going to use in your classroom. I see some people in there. So I'm thinking that the link is already in the chat, and I will look at that.
Yep, we've got the link in the chat. I'll put it in again just in case anyone missed it.
Okay, so you can go ahead and start putting in those ideas. And if you don't have anything for one of them, just skip on to the next one. And remember, even if it's something that a resource that you think other people would benefit from, drop it on in there. Yes, kiddie pools with the different textures. That sounds awesome. The Orbeez, water balloons, water. Even if you would like to make your own little stress balls, there's like some little good tutorials on about getting balloons and putting like Play-Doh and then that texture, that feel of that clay, even though it's through the plastic. You can even get clear. They're clear like balloons where the kids can like see that and they can hold that in their hand. Kids are very tactile, as we all know. So.
While folks are doing this, Jennifer, we've got a few questions in the chat. The first one is, can you talk about how you teach parents to appreciate the importance of nature for older kids? They seem to understand it when kids are younger, but as they get older, they are often very focused on academics only.
Okay, so I always go to, I tie it into the academics. So when a student, I know you probably noticed a lot of our students have gotten where they are experiencing anxiety. Right. And a lot of it's due to the pressures of academics, testing. When they're older and they have to go and choose a pathway when they're in 8th grade, and that pathway they have to stick through all through high school, right? That causes anxiety. So the importance of nature in that is, I let the parents know, okay, your child is experiencing anxiety. It's overstimulation typically. It's worry about things in the future. How do we stop that? Is we do mindfulness, right? And going out into nature, taking a walk triggers the mind to automatically be somewhat mindful. Okay. And when we don't have the stimulation of the internet, the phone, that allows us to be in the moment. So that skill is a skill your child can translate when they're in the classroom. Right? And when they have to take that test, when you're getting that call saying their stomach hurts because they have a STAR exam, or your kid's telling you they have a headache. So that's how I kind of encourage, always tie it to whatever that parent is concerned. like if you know, a little tricky. So hopefully that answered the question. If not, please just put it out and I will go a little bit more into that.
And then we have kind of a related one from Nancy. She asks, can you talk a little about SEL in nature with upper levels? Loved a lot of your examples, but a lot of them seemed more suited to younger students.
Okay, so that is also like, that is a thing that we tend to forget. Like, we tend to think, oh, okay, like when I talk about this, this is for younger kids, but what we're forgetting is that they're kids at the end of the day. And we want our older kids like to enjoy being kids. So I know the examples do so like that, but like the plotting, you can ratchet it up, you can ratchet it down. But the things like the mindfulness walking, the gardening, a lot of our kids don't have exposure to gardening. They've never put their fingers into the dirt on purpose. Like, and so how you can bring that into your classroom. In science classes, you can bring it in your classroom when you're talking about social studies. So say you're talking about how, and our society was a farming-based society before, we had the Industrial Revolution. Like, this is something that people would have done. When we talk about a guided meditation, the guided meditations actually are better for the older kids because the older kids have the ability to not be distracted as easily. Well, hopefully some of them. And so they're able to close their eyes and to take those deep breaths. When we talk about the sand, the kinetic sand. So as a secondary teacher, middle school and high school teacher, like things like the bubbles, I had prize boxes often for my middle school, and the teachers are looking at me crazy. And I'm like, no, really, they want smelly stickers that smell like food or whatever, because they don't get it. They act like they may not act like they do. They walk in, they ask, they go for that kinetic sand, they go for the fountains. So even though in our mind, in our minds, we think, oh, the older kids, they're cynical. They are at their root, they're kids. And when you just let them be, not pressure, but like these things are available for you, they tend to to naturally gravitate towards them. And hopefully that kind of answers it. But like, even with the journaling and things, like I give you can always take that further. You can add on to it. Now that you thought about, like, imagine that you're this tree in this forest and you appreciated the tree for giving you oxygen. Now think about what the tree is going through. Like, we have deforestation or ecological succession happening. Like, so that's how you kind of scaffold it.
Thanks, Jennifer. That is, Nancy said, thank you so much. Enjoyed your answer. That is the last question we have in the chat. So, and we are just about at time. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for presenting for us today. We will be sharing out this recording along with the resource list and the PowerPoint in the coming days. So be on the lookout for that. Again, if you are in need of a CPE certificate, you will need to email the email address that was in the email that had the link for this webinar. Please take a moment to fill out our evaluation. I put the link in the chat that helps us share with our presenters how they did. And as we all know as teachers, evaluation is very important. And it also helps us know in terms of what y'all are looking for future teacher workshops as well. Our next webinar is with Karina Newsom, and it's Birding, a multiplier for liberation and justice. And I'll put the registration link in here as well if you're interested in registering for that. Other than that, thank you so much, Jennifer. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
You.
Everyone as well. It's a beautiful day out there. Head out and enjoy some nature. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.